thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate this time with you, especially as most European countries are starting to ease their lockdowns. Now, Austria was one of the first countries to go into lockdown. You're already in this process. Where do you see yourself right now?
Well, first of all, let me thank you for the opportunity. And yes, you're right. We are now easing the lockdown. We were one of the first countries that made a lockdown in Europe. I think it was an advantage that we reacted tougher and earlier than others. And that makes it possible now to reopen our economy. We already opened the shops, and this Friday we will open the restaurants and also the schools. The situation is under control. The number of new infections every day is below 100, and so we are able to do that.
And you've done it through really early preventative measures, a lot of testing and advice that you received from your so-called Smart Countries Alliance. Talk to me about the Smart Countries Alliance and what the consensus is on those series of calls that you're holding right now.
Well, we created a small group of countries that were affected by the crisis and reacted in a good way, like, for example, Singapore, South Korea, Israel, Australia, Austria, and some others. And we tried to learn from each other. And of course, they were extremely helpful for us at the beginning. It was a difficult decision to make a lockdown, and many people were against it in March when we took this decision, but it was right to do it. And it is the reason why we can now reopen the economy. And of course, now we also still have some restrictions, like that people have to respect social distancing rules, or that people have to wear masks in public transportation or also in shops. And of course, we still avoid big gatherings, which is, I think, extremely important.
Mr. Chancellor, the lockdown in hindsight certainly looks like the right move. You've saved a lot of lives, but how much damage has been done to the Austrian economy?
Well, it's not only the lockdown, it's the virus. So the damage for the Austrian economy, but also for the whole European Union, I would say for the whole world globally, is enormous. And that's the reason why we try to reopen our economy. And of course, we try to reboost it by investments. We do a lot of investments in digitalization, but also in the fight against climate change. And of course, we are working on a package to reduce the taxes, especially for small incomes. And we try to provide liquidity for our companies in Austria.
And of course, Austria was well prepared for this virus even before it hit. A lot of countries were more poorly prepared. For example, your southern neighbor, Italy, a huge trading partner for you. What do you think about the economic state of Italy right now?
Well, you're right that some countries were hit in a terrible way. Italy is one of these countries. And for us, it's problematic because Italy is our neighboring country. It is our second biggest trading partner, but we try to show solidarity, and there's a good cooperation on the European level to support countries like Italy, France, and Spain. So there's a package of more than 500 billion euros to support these countries, and I hope that this will be helpful.
Do you think that'll be enough, or is there going to need to be some sort of shared fiscal union in Europe to help your second biggest trading partner?
Well, I think that this package is good, but we are not in favor of ideas like Corona bonds or mutualization of debt in the European Union.
Even if it costs Italy its European Union membership, I mean, how important to you is the membership of other EU countries like Italy?
Well, there's no debate about the membership of Italy in the European Union. We are united in the European Union. There's a good cooperation, and I think that we will manage this crisis, and we will also be able to manage the economic situation, but of course it will be an enormous difficult year.
I'm just thinking, Mr. Chancellor, Austria, Germany, the Netherlands, all of these countries were well prepared before the crisis hit. But there are other European countries like Italy and Spain, which were already in a bad fiscal situation. How much are you prepared to pay in order to keep the European Union together, in order to save those countries that were hit so much harder?
Well, it's clear for us that we want to support them and that we want to show solidarity. And I think it is good that the Ministers for Finance agreed on this 500 billion euros package to support these countries. And of course, on a European level, among the heads of states, we are also in a discussion if more help is needed.
So do you think it's possible? I mean, the austerity that you practiced put you in a good position now, but your second biggest trading partner, Italy, has 158% debt to GDP. Is it possible for them to get out of that kind of debt trap? How would they possibly do it without some form of debt forgiveness or shared debt?
Well, they wouldn't be able to handle the situation without the help of the European Union and countries like Austria. But I don't think that the idea of a shared debt is the right answer.
How long do you think, Mr. Chancellor, it's going to take for economies like the Austrian economy to get back to pre-crisis levels? Now that you've earmarked 38 billion euros, you've got more measures to come. When do you see us getting back, or yourselves getting back to pre-crisis levels?
Well, at the moment, it's difficult to say because we are quite dependent on tourism. 15% of our GDP in Austria is tourism. There are some industries like automotive, which have also been hit. So it's difficult to say now, but this year, 2020, will be a very, very difficult year. But we hope that at the next year, in 2021, there will be a positive development again. But probably it could take us a few years.
I know that you're already preparing measures like tax cuts, possibly infrastructure investment, reopening borders with your neighbors. What do you think is going to be the most important move to revive the economy on the post-corona side of the crisis?
For us, for sure, the reopening of the borders is most important because we need the single market of the European Union. We are an export-oriented country, and as mentioned before, tourism also plays an important role in our country. So for the economy in general, but for tourism in particular, reopening the borders is very important.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chancellor. Pleasure having you with us. I appreciate your time. And of course, we all wish you the best.